Happy Saturday, everybody. Welcome to this Small Business Saturday video podcast edition of Furthermore with Amanda Head. I am so glad you're here, especially if you are an employer who has jobs that you need to be filled, or if you are a prospective employee who needs a job. My guest today is Andrew Crapuchettes. He is the founder of RedBalloon. And look, there are tons of websites and apps out there for finding jobs and finding employees. This one is the best. Some of the systems that he has in place within RedBalloon to vet employees and employers, it's just incredible. You're going to want to learn all about his company, even if you're somebody who is, loving your job, but you're just kind of thinking about maybe doing something else or replacing your job with something else. You're going to want to listen. So we're going to take a quick commercial break and we'll be back in another time. Welcome, everybody, to another exciting edition of Small Business Saturday here at Furthermore with Amanda Head. We love to highlight small businesses and even some medium businesses, and that's going to kind of be the theme of today. And some of you who tuned in last week to my guest, Cody Swetland with the HVAC service in Michigan, one of the pieces of our conversation was about hiring and about, the pool of available future employees out there and what that looks like. And a lot of times, and obviously I think it's kind of regional. If you're somewhere in the Midwest or the South, you're going to find maybe a bit more of a polite group of kids that you're choosing from. But I think across the board for employers these days, it's hard to find good employees. And for good employees, it's hard to find good employers. So I am delighted to bring in Andrew Crapuchettes. He is the founder and CEO of RedBalloon. Andrew, it's a pleasure having you here. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me, Amanda. Nice to see you. Nice to talk to you. And yeah, I love helping businesses and being a blessing to them in any way I can. So
I love it. And I love the concept of RedBalloon. We've had conversations on the TV show before. My audience might be familiar with what RedBalloon is, but for those who aren't, give them a little briefer on what it's about.
Yeah, a quick run through it. We are America's pro-freedom job board. We help job seekers and employers find each other who believe in freedom, believe in an American dream, and believe in meritocracy and not the DEI craziness or any of the other alphabet soup, right? You've got DEI or ESG or any of those, right? We focus on putting people together who have who care about building value for a business, who care about capitalism. And it has been an amazing adventure. We've only been around for 3 years, and we have helped thousands and thousands of people find great jobs. We've had over 2 million job seekers on the site. So we do that. We also come alongside employers who need help with the entire hiring process, and we'll do a recruitment process. So we can soup to nuts help you find the right person for a flat, low rate. And it has been incredible. We're helping Tucker Carlson right now fill a couple of positions. So it is fun to come alongside these pro-freedom businesses who just want to hire people who show up and work.
Yeah, no kidding. Let's rewind a little, and I want to give everybody a little bit of your background. I didn't know this. You just told me this off air, that you grew up in San Francisco. I imagine at that time, San Francisco looked very different than it does now, although maybe not. I would love to get your input on that. But you began your career in Silicon Valley as an entrepreneur. Just give us kind of a bit of an idea of your background and how you got to the place where you started RedBalloon.
Absolutely. So, yeah, grew up in San Francisco Bay Area, kind of the South Bay, down in Palo Alto, Sunnyvale, Los Altos, if you know the area well.
Yeah.
Beautiful area, and being part of the dot-com world was really fun. So I started working when I was 16. I actually never went to college because when you can program early on, and you are making way more money than all of your friends could even imagine, and they're driving their parents' station wagon and you have a convertible Mustang, I thought, why would I pay to go and try and learn things that I already know? So skipped the whole college thing, just started working when I was 16 and did the whole .com thing. And so when 2000 came around, 1999, 2000, I had millions of dollars of stock that wasn't worth anything, but I learned a lot of lessons through that process. So the company I was part of got $32 million of VC money back when $32 million meant something.
Right.
And we blew through the whole thing. We had a really good time. I turned 21 on an expense account, went to Japan several times for various partner meetings, had a great time, but then we ran out of money. So about that time, at the ripe old age of 22, I was burned out from the .com world. I'd been working 100-hour weeks since I was a very young man, and decided that I needed a change. And so I moved up to Idaho because California and San Francisco particularly was just filling up with traffic and liberals. And I was just not interested in hanging out with either of those things. So moved up to Idaho, realized there weren't a lot of great jobs up here in beautiful little Moscow, Idaho. So I thought, well, if I've been given skills and ability, I should use those to bless other people. So I went on this rampage of starting businesses and started a whole variety of businesses, ended up doing 6 successful exits while I've been up here. And it has been a blessing to be in a small town and a community where you can really provide for people by creating jobs. I have 5 kids. I live on 60 acres, 10 minutes from the office, and
Wow.
it is absolutely living the good life. And the reason I started creating businesses is because I thought people need jobs. Whenever you meet someone new, you ask them, what do you do? And you're asking them what their job is. But the question kind of betrays a job is more than a 9 to 5 hobby. It's an opportunity to bless your community. It's an opportunity to provide for your family. And it's a defining feature of many people's lives. And so when I started my first business here in Idaho, my mission was 25 or 50 people earning over $50,000 a year, 50 at 50. Because I thought if I can kind of check that box in a small town in Idaho, it actually starts to move the needle on this community. Because if you have a little extra income, then you can go out to eat, you can take vacations, you can interact with your community in a different way. And I want a prosperous community, and jobs are the way to drive that. So anyway, there's maybe a longer answer than you were looking for, but that's a little bit of my background.
No, that's awesome. I love that. And when, obviously, I think a lot of people, especially in this day and age, are trying to move away from the ESG and the DEI thing. And that's another piece of the conversation that I want to talk about in a minute. But merit is, I think, for a lot of especially conservative businesses, that's the number one thing. But you also mentioned pro freedom, that RedBalloon is a pro freedom job search engine. Talk to us about that piece of it.
Yeah. So when we started, this started out of my story. So one of the businesses that I'd started, and I'd sold it a couple of different times, I was nearly out of ownership. And 2020 came around and the whole world lost their mind, including my board. And they decided that I was a little too conservative and Christian for their liking. And so I found myself delightfully unemployed in early 2021. And that was because I wouldn't put a black square on my LinkedIn. I wouldn't force employees to wear masks or get vaccines or any of those things. So, and they tied that all together with my religious beliefs, whether that was a connect tie or not, it probably was. So all that to be said, I found myself unemployed. I was going to spend time on a housing development I'm working on. I have commercial real estate. I have plenty of other things. I'm on the board of a number of organizations. That was going to be my main focus. And a friend kind of challenged me and said, look, you will be hiding your light under a bushel. You will be burying your talents if you don't use your time and energy to bless people who are put in the same position that you were. Because I was given a choice between my job and my values. And for many Americans, when you're given that choice, I had a financial wherewithal where I could say, okay, I'll lose my job, no big deal. For a lot of people, the decision is, am I going to continue to pay my mortgage? Am I going to be able to feed my kids? Right? It's a really big life decision to say, I'm going to stick with my guns and maybe lose my job as part of this process. So when we started the business, we said every business that jumps on RedBalloon needs to sign a pledge that they're going to protect the freedom of their current and future employees, including medical freedom. That was back to the vaccine mandate. And our thesis was, look, people are adults. If they want to go make a medical decision for themselves about whether they take a vaccine, knock yourself out. But that's probably a conversation you should have with your doctor, not your HR department.
Right.
And so, right, which is not that shocking, but it's funny, in 2021, that was
incendiary. Yeah.
It was. And I had hate mail and I had people threatening me and my family because I was saying things like this. But I thought, well, this is the moment that I was put on the earth for. So that's how RedBalloon got started, really focusing on freedom in the workplace. Because when people are free in the workplace and they don't have to walk on eggshells around their coworkers, that's where innovation comes from. That's where joy in the workplace comes from. And we wanted to be kind of a place where those people could find each other. And it has been incredible. We have employers write us and say, I just wanted you to know that every employee I hire off redballoon.work is cleansing to our culture, because they're just hardworking conservatives who aren't whiners and show up and work hard. It's amazing. And then I've had incredible thank you notes from people who found jobs. I've had multiple people say, I just wanted you to know you saved my marriage, because the job that I was in, when you swim in woke waters for 8 to 10 hours a day, it has a huge impact on your worldview and the way you interact with everybody else in your life. And so being in a position where I can help people find jobs where they can be free, and help businesses find job seekers who care about merit, who care about freedom, those are the best kind of workers. And lo and behold, it has been a kind of this beautiful marriage that we've just been a matchmaker in the employment space for the freedom economy. And so anyway, there's that's what we're doing, and that's what I mean when I talk about freedom. It's the freedom to work hard. In fact, we even put together an employee bill of rights and responsibilities because, and you can download it at redballoon.work, because employees need to understand they do have rights. There's things that they can stand up for and push back on, but they also have responsibilities.
Yep.
And when you kind of pair those things together, as the founding fathers in America understood, that's where the real magic happens in a capitalist society.
I love that. I love that so much. And I love the description that you provide, almost like a matchmaking service. And I want to touch on the employee aspect of things because, excuse me, the business owner that I spoke to last Saturday was talking about how he said for every two, because he said he has two employees who are ride or die, they are solid, they go above and beyond. But he said for every two guys like that, I run into 15 potential employees or people who do become employees, and I end up having to fire them because they don't have the work ethic, or they have a bad attitude, or they're vindictive or bitter, or lazy. They don't show up on time. Just any. And I hate to say it's a cultural thing, but it certainly seems like, and I'm going to sound like a super boomer here, but it certainly seems like, especially with this youngest generation, it is an epidemic of laziness, an epidemic of, a lack of tenacity. But it seems like with what I'm hearing from you with RedBalloon, that RedBalloon actually, and I don't know if it's the culture of the company and what you put out there, but you don't attract that type of garbage. You attract the employees who want to show up on time, even early, and stay late, and they want to do their job and even more. That's what it sounds like you're attracting.
Absolutely. And Amanda, I'll tell you what our secret sauce is. And this, any employer out there, you can listen to this. So this is your secret cheat code to be able to get great people. Live your values out loud as an employer, and you're actually going to give yourself a legal protection. And one of the ways we do that is we use the American flag as a filtering mechanism. I know that sounds ridiculous, but it's amazing how well it works. When we were getting people who are coming off LinkedIn or some other platform to RedBalloon seeing those jobs, we were, getting a reasonable bounce rate of people, but we were also getting a lot of people who weren't values aligned. They weren't focused on that. And so we just made them go through a pledge that said they're not going to be a whiner and they're going to show up and work hard. And we had a big American flag in the background, and the bounce rate went through the roof, where people are like, ooh, I don't want any of that stuff. But our employers love that, right? Because if you're going to get those people who are a good fit. So if you're an employer out there, this is the opportunity for you to stand out from the crowd, because we are in a tough labor market. There's available talent out there, but not available good talent out there. And the way for you to actually stand out and build your employment brand is to live your values out loud. In fact, 75% of all employers in the US over the last 5 years have had a labor-based lawsuit. 75%. And a lot of that is, you misgendered me, therefore it's sexual harassment. Or I thought that I was discriminated in the hiring process because I showed up late and I didn't do a good job in the interview. Well, no, it's actually, we did discriminate. You're just a bad candidate. But they actually bring lawsuits, and unfortunately they win more often than they should. So that's where you can let RedBalloon kind of be that filtering mechanism for you as an employer. But we just encourage employers, live your values out loud. Don't be afraid of saying who you are and what you believe. Because then if an employee comes to you and says, hey, you said you were Christian or conservative or Republican or whatever it is, and then they say, we're going to sue you because of who you are, you can say, well, actually, it was on my job posting. It was on my website, and I told you that in the interview process. So they don't have any legal standing to bring a lawsuit against you. So being brave is actually a legal protection, and is one of the ways that you can filter out some of the talent that might be bad for your business.
I love that. And honestly, that's just a great principle to have across the board. Even if you're talking about romantic relationships. Just a quick sidebar, when I met my husband through a friend out here in Los Angeles. All I knew about him at the time of our first date was that he was Canadian and he worked in the film industry. So I'm thinking, this guy, he's Canadian, so he's liberal. He's in the film industry, so he's ultra liberal. So our very first date, and anybody can ask him to attest this, I immediately said, just so you know, I am conservative and I'm Christian. Because I was like, there's no point in having a second date. There's no point in taking a second meeting with an employer if they don't know where you stand. So I think that that's so important. And the American flag is a hilarious thing because we live in an area that's pretty close to Glendale, and a lot of people, if you know the area, you know that Glendale is a lot of Armenian Americans, and they are people who migrated here legally. They're living the American dream, or they were until California went in the crapper.
Right.
But they love this country. They love the values of this country. They have, they've still retained their Armenian culture and values, but they've also assimilated to that of this country, and it's a really, really wonderful blend. But we were speaking to a friend of ours a few weeks ago who was talking about how Armenian Americans have started putting American flags on their front porches because there's been a huge spell of robberies in the area. And when thieves are going door to door, they're scouting a neighborhood or whatever. If they see an American flag, they immediately assume you're conservative, and then of course they assume that you have guns in the household. So the American flag, it is wonderful, it's patriotic, it's prideful, and it has so much meaning to us. But it also is a great symbol to back the heck off.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you see it, I mean, I hate to say it, if you see an American flag hanging from a house, I can probably guess how they're going to vote in the presidential election.
Absolutely. And that's especially true here in LA.
Where they stand on Second Amendment things.
Yep.
And I think that's the moment. Unfortunately, that's the world we live in right now. But that's why I encourage people, lean into it. Like, don't be afraid of that. Lean into it. Lean into it at work. Lean into it at home. And it's going to protect you and your family. It's going to protect your business. And it's going to give you an opportunity to have way more fun at work. Because remember, hiring used to be fun. I don't know if anyone remembers that anymore. Like, it used to be like, hey, here's a young person or a talented older person. You're like, I'm going to give them an opportunity. I'm excited the values they're going to bring to my business. We're going to succeed together. Because it used to be in America, you did hard things together, and that's how you build camaraderie. That's how you, and it was hard. It's absolutely hard, but it was fun to be like, okay, I'm adding this asset to my team. This person is going to be part of what is going to be part of the story of our business. That's going to be blessing customers and blessing other employees and blessing our shareholders. Yeah. It's going to be amazing. And unfortunately, we've lost that in America, where hiring is not fun anymore because it's terrifying. And so we're trying to make hiring fun again. I don't know what the acronym is for that, but that's what RedBalloon's all about.
I love that so much. Okay, so I want to get into some of the terrifying things about hiring. I saw the statistic that labor-based lawsuits have increased by 50% from 2022 to 2023. I know that America is litigious. We all knew this ever since the hot coffee at McDonald's lawsuit, but this is devastating for employers.
Absolutely. And you think about it, and this is not only employees, but it's also people who are interviewing for jobs. Yeah. But if your employee, someone who's on your team, you've been paying their payroll, you've been building a business with this person, right? You feel this camaraderie, you feel this loyalty to that person, and then they turn around and sue you, and they sue you for a lot of money. And unfortunately, in court, they're often going to win. We had a story of an employer. He had a $15 an hour job, filled it with someone because he was kind of in a desperate spot, overloaded with work, and just like, okay, do they have a pulse? Fantastic. I'd like to hire them, right? Unfortunately, that's a really bad method to do that, even for a $15 an hour job, because this person ended up being just a disaster. Everyone, they were offended constantly. They were complaining constantly. Nobody was enjoying work, and they were starting to lose their good employees because of this $15 an hour person. So they go to them and say, hey, it's just not working out. It's been 2 months, but we're going to give you a 1 month severance to sign this agreement that says you're not going to sue us, just as a, sorry it didn't work out. We're not obligated to do this, but we want to be a blessing to you on the way out. Yep. And this bad employee said, actually, how about $50,000? If you give me $50,000, I'll sign that. Otherwise, I'm taking you to court. And the employer's like, that's crazy. You're a $15 an hour job who's been here for 2 months. And so they said no. And they're in court, and they're probably going to pay $50,000 for that $15 an hour employee. So my encouragement to employers is, when you go into your hiring process, it is so critical that you do it right and you give it the time and energy that you need. And I've been a business owner who's done the 15-minute interview and like, yeah, you're probably good enough. But you need to understand that this person is potentially going to be a cancer in your business that is really going to hurt you. Or they're also going to be an amazing asset to your business. And so we encourage employers, you need to plan on spending 20 hours at least on a hiring process. If you want to get someone good inside your business, you need to be looking at their social media. You need to be asking evidence-based, open-ended questions to understand, are they going to be a good fit and an asset to your business? And if you have any questions about the hiring process, look, whether you buy anything from RedBalloon or not, I would love to help out conservative employers and help them not be in a spot where they have that exact same situation. So we can actually give you the entire hiring process that we use for our businesses. I will give it to you for free because I really
Wow.
want to help you avoid this process. Obviously, if you want us to take over the hiring or you want to post jobs with us, that's going to be a blessing to us. It's also going to be a blessing to job seekers because they want to work for people like you. But even if that's not in the cards for you, we really want to bless the employers that are in this community that are terrified of this hiring process. We want to make hiring fun again. And the way to do that is to know what you're allowed to do as an employer and what you can do to filter out that bad hire.
I love that. God, such great principles here. And I would encourage everyone to go find you guys online. And we're going to talk about your online coordinates in just a moment. We've just got a few more minutes left. So I wanted to ask you about this recent advertising campaign, When I Grew Up, Woke Free Job Board. Talk to us about it.
Yeah, our big thing when we talk to employers all over the country, they're like, "Oh my word, I believe my children, my employees are children, or the people I'm interviewing are children, no matter what their age are.
Yeah.
They're demanding things."
Ugh.
And so, as we started hearing these stories, we're like, we should poke fun at some of the entitlement that's in the workplace. I mean,
Yes.
when an employer is trying to hire someone at Arby's and they're like, "Hey, do I get a priority parking spot?" And they're like,
What?
"You're earning $12 an hour. Like,
Yeah.
who do you think
It's
you
fast
are?"
food.
Right, exactly. So we decided we would start making fun of that. So we've now released two of these, and we've got lots more coming. Just poking at real stories that are coming from our employers, and we got a bunch of kids together and had them say the things that employers have been telling us about. And so, if you follow me on LinkedIn or X, then you can see these drop. We're basically going to be giving a new ad every Monday. That's again, these are all based on things that have happened to ad employers that we've been working with. So hopefully they're entertaining and they're a reminder to everyone that the workplace is not as fun as it used to be, but we're going to make it fun again.
No kidding. Golly, true stories, horror stories. My gosh. Okay, I always try to close out conversations with kind of a big picture, philosophical conversation or question. So before I let you go, I wanted to ask you, and I want to get back to this DEI ESG thing. So probably about 4 years ago, that was hot and heavy. I mean, every corporation out there was concerned about what their ESG score was. They were hiring a whole board of people dedicated to DEI. You had banks in California that were collapsing because they had a DEI position, but they didn't have a risk assessor. I mean, that was completely prioritized for businesses. And now we are starting to see, thanks to some intrepid journalists out there, especially highlighting some of these corporations with these DEI positions, it's kind of starting to peel away. It seems like, am I just looking at this all through very rosy glasses?
It is peeling away, but it's peeling away very slowly. And
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, the mindset is still there at a lot of these companies. And so we
Yeah.
saw a university, for instance, shut down their DEI program, but then rehired all those people under a different name at a different part of the college. And so, unfortunately, when
Is
you
that
are an
Bama?
ideologue, when you have a mindset that I have to push this Marxist worldview on everyone around me, you'll do anything, even if they say no more DEI. You're like, okay, well then we're going to have an office of human flourishing, which actually has nothing to do with human flourishing.
Yeah.
But that's what they're doing right now. So we're definitely it's going out of vogue, which is encouraging, but unfortunately, it's not going fast enough, in my opinion.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. And the only reason I bring up Bama is because University of Alabama finally dumped their DEI board really only just a few months ago. And I had heard murmurings that they had done that exact thing, that they had turned around and rehired them under which Office of Human Flourishing or whatever. No one flourishes under anything except a meritocracy when it comes to hiring. So
Right.
that's just, it's so ridiculous. Okay, Andrew, tell everybody where they can find out more about you and Red Balloon on social media and online.
Yeah, absolutely. So redballoon.work. It's not .com because we thought .com sounded too much like communism, and we need work, not communism. So redballoon.work. As a job seeker, as someone who is looking for an opportunity, even if you already have a job right now, you can. Everything is free for you. You can go on and fill in your profile. Then employers can just start to reach out to you, and you have an opportunity to maybe find a job where you're free. You can download that employee bill of rights and responsibilities that I talked about earlier. That's all free. And as an
Awesome.
employer, if you go to redballoon.work, you can post jobs. You can ask us to take over that hiring process. Again, I mentioned some key people. We just filled a CFO position for national religious broadcasters.
Oh,
We've done
nice.
hundreds of positions where we We'll take on that whole recruitment process and we'll save you a ton of money. We have an ATS, applicant tracking system, that's coming out. But basically, we want to come alongside and be a blessing to as many employers as possible. So go check it out. The best places to follow me would probably be LinkedIn and then Twitter a little bit. Twitter, I'm kind of a newbie to, I guess X, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But if you follow me on LinkedIn, Andrew Crapuchettes, there's a lot of great content that I'm going to be putting on there about how to hire, about how to build your business, build your culture at your business. And then we'll also be dropping those ads about funny things kids are saying that are from real stories from poor employers who are dealing with the woke mindset in America. So that's probably the best way to follow me.
Beautiful. I love the concept of RedBalloon. I love everything that y'all are doing. Andrew, it's been an honor having you here today. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, Amanda. And everybody have a great Small Employer Saturday.
Amen. Take care. All right, everybody, we're going to take a quick break and we will be right back.
I don't really like working.
I only work remotely.
I'm gonna need 8 weeks of paid vacation, maybe 12.
I take a lot of breaks. I feel more mentally healthy.
I'm gonna need a priority parking space.
Do you have non-dairy options in your coffee bar? Do you have soy? Do you have a decaf, half-calf kind of thing? Interviews are so boring.
How's your game?
Do I need to call my dad? You work for him, you know.
You guys are so intense. Like, do you always work this hard?
You don't run a daycare, you run a business. That's why you need redballoon.work.
I think you need me more than I need you.
Welcome back, everybody. You know what? Let's finish up with a bit of a Hollywood story for this weekend. So some of you probably know who Padma Lakshmi is. She's the former host of Top Chef, long-running show, cooking show. And she did an interview or I guess she wrote an op-ed for the New York Times. So you know what's coming, hey? So apparently she is too wealthy and too elite to realize that life is really, really sucky for a lot of Americans who have to purchase groceries for their family, which is pretty much everyone except celebrities like Padma Lakshmi, who has others who buy groceries for them. So she, in actuality, has no idea how much grocery prices have gone up. So she writes this op-ed basically equating Kamala Harris's cooking skills to the argument that would make her a good president. I'm not kidding. Kamala Harris, who fakes, make no mistake, she is lying. This story that she told about how like she's the collard green cooker of the family. Was it collard greens or turnip greens? I'm Southern, so we have a lot of greens. Anyway, how she's that person in the family who does that, and she has to cook so many of them that she has to clean them in the bathtub or something. It was it was akin to Hillary Clinton back in 2016 when she went on Charlemagne the God's show, The Breakfast Club, and pulled a bottle of hot sauce out of her purse. Like the pandering is so disgusting. Honestly, I can't imagine what type of person it takes to believe this garbage. It is such, and you have to have a room temperature IQ to think that she is being sincere in this. Anyway, back to Padma Lakshmi. So she writes, I'm going to read you pieces of this article. It's real rich. All right. She says, the way she talks about food and access to food is also a way of opening doors and building consensus about who Americans are. Cooking well requires organization, attention to detail, patience, and the impulse to bring people together. In a divided country, these qualities can help Ms. Harris be a good, even a great president. In cooking, Ms. Harris displays the very qualities this country sorely needs: her care and her ability to tell a new kind of story about what it means to be American. I want a president who is intent on nurturing and nourishing all Americans. Let me tell you, I happen to think I'm a great cook. My husband tells me so. Probably that's because he doesn't want to start a fight. But I've had a lot of people tell me that I'm a great cook. That does not mean I would be a good president. In fact, I think I would be a terrible president because I'm too hot-headed. And I do not see any type of relationship other than a manufactured relationship, which Padma Lakshmi is trying to do, There is no relationship outside of a completely fabricated and manufactured relationship for that between a cook and your cooking abilities and being president. Sorry, not sorry. All right, so I have another little bit of a soapbox that I want to get on to. And I posted this on my Instagram, and I ended up taking it down because it felt a little too forward as far as who it was directed towards. But I do have a bone to pick with pastors in this country. And in my Instagram post, I directed folks to go back to my podcast episode with former Secretary Dr. Ben Carson. And I think it's an important episode for believers to listen to. And if you're a believer who has a relationship with your pastor such that you feel comfortable sharing it, I would encourage you to share that episode. Here's why. Ben Carson, in that episode, we had a very frank conversation about pastoral leadership in this country and the fact that we are where we are because of weak, cowardly pastors. And I am not sorry for saying that. And as I spoke about with Dr. Carson, in the founding of this country, there were pastors. George Whitefield is the one that I always bring to mind or bring to the conversation because of his Father Abraham sermons, but they were lighting up the Eastern Seaboard leading into the American Revolution. Pastors were vocal about where they stood and the desire for independence and the desire to break from the crown. They were not cowardly. They didn't try to pander to everyone. They didn't try to appease the masses so that they didn't lose members of their congregation. And I think that is the opposite of what we are seeing right now in this country. And I see it especially here in Los Angeles. I've been to many churches in this city, and so many of the pastors try to say the least that they can about biblical principles that hurt people's feelings so that they don't lose members of their congregation. And I am so unbelievably sick of the false equivalency between the left and the right, and this garbage that people like pastors, again, who are trying to appease both sides, that pastors say about, well, both sides have hate. Both sides are violent. No, actually, that's not true at all. When it comes to hate and hate as a contributor to violence, only one side of the aisle is the party of Antifa and BLM. Only one side of the aisle lit up cities across this country in the summer of 2020. Only one side lit Washington, D.C. on fire on January 20th, 2017 for Donald Trump's inauguration, which I saw in person. Only one side of the aisle has tried to murder the other side's nominee twice. There is no equivalency between the two sides, and pastors need to call this out. I'm trying to be very deliberate and precise in what I say, but if you're one of those pastors out there who is afraid to take a stand on what each of the parties represents, what is codified in their party platform, if you are a pastor who refuses to address that from the pulpit, you might want to ask your dry cleaner to put a little extra starch in your shirt so that you can stand up a little more upright, because I don't know how you're upright with a spine that weak. Okay. All right, everybody. Hope you're having a fantastic weekend. Hey, tomorrow's Sunday, so maybe impart some of my soapbox to your own pastor if such is needed. All right, everybody. Find me on social media at Amanda Head. If you are watching this video, you're probably watching it via social media, possibly over on Rumble or YouTube, but find me on social media at Amanda Head. The podcast has its very own X account at Furthermore Pod, and I hope you have a great rest of your weekend. I'll see you on Monday.